Hello everyone, welcome back to Chess Highlights channel. In this video, let's break down this fascinating game between Stefan Levitsky and Frank Marshall move by move. This game, played in Breslau in 1912, features a stunning queen sacrifice by Marshall that has made it a classic. Stefan Levitsky as white and Frank Marshall as black. White opens with d4, the queen's pawn, and black responds with a solid move e6, preparing to develop pieces and potentially challenge the center. After that, white stakes a claim in the center with the king's pawn, transpose the game into French defense, and black immediately challenges it with d5. White develops a knight, controlling important central squares. Black strikes at the center with c5, aiming to undermine white's d4 pawn. This chess opening turns into French defense Marshall Gambit variation. Both sides continue developing their knights, bringing them to active squares and preparing for further development. White exchanges pawns in the center. Black recaptures with the e-pawn, maintaining a symmetrical pawn structure in the center for now. White develops the bishop to e2, a safe square, and prepares to castle. Black develops the knight to f6, controlling central squares and preparing to castle 2. White castle his king, a crucial step for safety in the middle game. Black develop his dark square bishop. White pins black's knight on f6, restricting its movement as it defends the bishop on e7. Black completes castling. White captures black's c5 pawn. Black did not rush to take the pawn. He opts to develop the bishop. White brings the knight to a strong central outpost on d4, putting pressure on black's bishop. Black captures the pawn and attacks the knight. Therefore, white captures the light square bishop with the knight. Black takes back with the f-pawn, opening the f-file for potential rook activity. White develops the bishop to g4, attacking the pawn. Black develops the queen to d6, defending the pawn and out of the bishop pin. White retreats the bishop to h3, maintaining its influence and avoiding a potential exchange. Black brings the rook to the e-file, potentially aiming to defend the pawn. So black's queen can start to move and the attack white's pieces. White moves the queen to d2, supporting the c3 knight and preparing for potential kingside activity. Black develops the bishop to b4, pinning white's knight on c3, restricting its movement. White exchanges the bishop for black's knight on f6, further weakening black's pawn structure on the kingside. Black recaptures with the rook, utilizing the open f-file. White brings the rook to the open d-file, increasing pressure on black's d-pawn and shadowing the queen. Black moves the queen to c5 to escape from the shadowing. White moves the queen to e2, a potential tactical plan, giving pressure on the e6 pawn and preparing to capture the d-pawn. Black captures the knight on c3 with the bishop, creating doubled pawns for white on the c-file. White recaptures with the b-pawn, further weakening the queenside pawn structure. Black takes the c3 pawn with the queen, wins one pawn and gain material. White captures black's d5 pawn with the rook. This position is balance in material or positional. Black responds by bringing the knight to the strong central square d4, attacking white's. Now, we are in the most critical position. The best move for white is put the queen to e4, attack the knight, and maintain the pinning to the pawn. But in this position, white make a big blunder. White moves the queen to h5, attacking black's rook. Black brings the rook to the f-file, doubling rooks on the open file. And now the black pawn ready to take the rook on d5. Therefore, white moves the rook from d5 to e5, continuing to pressure the e6 pawn. Black moves the rook to h6, attacking the queen. White saves the queen and moves the queen to g5. But this is another blunder. Here comes an incredible, game-changing move. Black sacrifices the rook on h3. If pawn take the rook, black will has a strong attack with knight f3. This is a royal fork. White is not give up. He tried to attack the queen with rook to c5. White, perhaps thinking he's consolidating his material advantage, captures the offered rook with his rook on e5. In this position, black then moves the queen to g3, threatening checkmate in h2. This is the stunning moment. The queen on g3 delivers a checkmate threat to white's king on g1. White has no way to defend against this threat, as all his pieces are too far away or pinned. Okay, let's analyze the possible move-in after this queen sacrifice. If h-pawn captures the queen, then knight to e2. This is checkmate. If f-pawn captures the queen, then knight to e2. White's king has to move to h1. After that, rook captures on f1. This is checkmate. The last possible move is queen captures the queen. But after that, knight to e2. White's king has to move to h1. Black will take the queen and forking the rook and the king. Of course, h-pawn can't take the knight. And if the f-pawn take the knight, rook captures on f1. This is checkmate again. The best move white can do is king back to g1. But after that, knight e2 again to check the king. And after king to h1, black will put the rook on c3 to attack white's rook and pawn. Black win a piece. And that's the game. After 23, qg3, Stefan Levitsky resigned because checkmate is hard to avoid. It's a beautiful example of a brilliant queen sacrifice creating an unstoppable attack.